So I wanted to ask you about something that's been very prevalent in the media lately, which is this idea of QAnon, and I wanted to get your thoughts on whether you think this might be a psyop, because it's this whole idea of staying apathetic, trust the plan, wait and see, will Donald Trump get elected again? Maybe we'll just wait for that. And meanwhile, you have this, they claim Hillary Clinton and all these people are going to be in Guantanamo Bay in January, but what happens in January? Roger Stone gets arrested. So what are your thoughts on this QAnon theory? Is it a psyop or is it legitimate?
We have a word in England which I think encapsulates this whole theme, and the word is bollocks. You know, I've been on this road a long time, and I see the cycles, and this is a cycle that I've seen. When I was in North America, way back in the 90s, on this road when no one wanted to know then, people were telling me basically the same story, that the good guys, because, you know, it's like Hitler said, keep your bloody propaganda simple. The good guys are going to arrest the bad guys, right? And there's all the good guys are getting together in the military and the intelligence, and they're going to arrest the bad guys. And you know, every now and again you get given a date, which I don't put in my diary, by the way, because it passes. And I've come across this so many times. It's ridiculous. It's just like a recurring pattern. Oh, what shall we call it this time? And it just repeats itself. And you know, if you look at I'll give you an analogy of what this is about, or in part what it's about. In Israel, we have had, Israel-Palestine, we have had a long period of talks about talks, roadmaps, talks about roadmaps, roadmaps about talks. And so it's gone on. And it never got anywhere. You know why? It was never meant to. What has it been doing? Buying time. And as that time has elapsed, more and more illegal settlements have been built in Palestinian land, to the point where there's two-state solution, which is what people say, oh, I believe in a two-state solution. Excuse me, have you seen what's going on? There aren't two states. Because the time has been bought to make a two-state solution impossible. So now what are they saying now? Oh, well, a one-state solution. Yeah, that's all along, right? So when you have these cycles of this, the good guys are going to arrest the bad guys, it's buying time. Oh, well, I don't really have to do anything then, because they're going to arrest the bad guys. And so it goes on. You know, and it's just, in many ways, an excuse to do nothing. You know, I got involved. I leave it alone usually, but there was one. I won't go into the people involved, although I've mentioned them in my books, where they kept giving the date of when the good guys were going to arrest the bad guys, right? And it was on a radio show and stuff, and the guy had this fella on who was anonymous. We can't say who it is because, you know, he'll be in danger, but he's going to tell us how the good guys are going to arrest the bad guys and when they're going to do it. Well, hold on a second. First of all, he was on the bloody phone, right? Right? So they can't work out where he is when he's on the phone for 2 hours to a radio show, right? So please. But you are going to arrest the bad guys, and you tell them the date. I mean, come on. I'm sitting there going, I'm going to wake up in a minute. Pinch me. Ouch. No, it's real. And, of course, the date passed. And what do they do? They give another date. That date passed. And years later, we're still waiting. So it's just a recurring theme. And please don't let people fall for it, because it's just buying time. Get involved. Get engaged. the cavalry's not coming over the horizon. We are the bloody cavalry.
And apathy so often begets dependence, and dependence is exactly what any government in the world would want. Their subjects to be on their knees, begging them to help them and solve the problems they created.
Now, this might be controversial. I don't give a damn, really, because, we've reached the point here where we've got to start saying what is and not running away from it. What I'm about to say now... What I'm about to say now, virtually no one else, there are some, and some that, some of them are characters I don't really would like to spend an evening with, to be honest, and some are. But most people, the overwhelming majority of people in what we call conspiracy research, won't touch this subject, right? Well, I'm going to bloody touch it because I'm sick of it. And I'm sick of people being frightened and intimidated into not touching it. Thank you. Right, first of all, we as a human race have got to get our fricking heads around what this is, because it ain't what we're told it is. It's not about what's right and beneficial for Jewish people. Jewish people are its victims, not its beneficiaries. Jewish people have been hung out to dry again and again by this crowd that claim to have their best interests at heart, like hell they do. That's why I call this Rothschild Zionism. It was created by them, it is controlled by them to this minute, and it was created as a secret society within the web to massively contribute to the manipulation and control of our global society and individual countries, etc., etc. It's Rothschild Zionism. Anti-Zionism is not anti-Semitism, not that anti-Semitism means what we think it does, because Zionism is not about Jewish people. Even in its play-out way or world, it is a political system, a political philosophy. At its core, it is a secret society putting its agents in places of power. One of the very few things that Joe Biden, Vice President of the United States, has ever said, which is true, is you don't have to be Jewish to be a Zionist. Because of the propaganda, we equate Zionism with Jewish people. It's not how it is. To a very, very large extent. How many people know this? How many Jewish people around the world are protesting, have organizations created to protest against Zionism? Zionism and Judaism are diametrically opposed. Zionism is state-organized terror. How many times do we see this in the newspapers? Never. End of Zionism equals peace. Israel, stop killing Palestinians. I am Jewish and I want that. Why don't we hear about this? We condemn any Zionist aggression against Iran. I thought every Jewish person in the world wanted to bomb Iran. That's what the media seem to give us an indication about. Another Jew against Zionism. Over and over. Zionist spokesmen do not represent world Jewry. How many people... I thought Ahmadinejad of Iran is supposed to be the great demon of all Jewish people. Look at it. The demonization comes from Rothschild Zionism. We've been totally misled about what it is. Rothschild dynasty created Israel. It paid for the first people out of Europe to go and people Israel after the war. It paid for the building of the Knesset. It paid for the building of the Supreme Court building with all its Illuminati symbols all over it. And some of the people who've broken out of the family, I quote one of them in my book, have actually said, and as I've been saying for years, because it's bloody obvious, that Israel is not the homeland of Jewish people, it is the fiefdom of the Rothschild dynasty, created out of Rothschild Zionism, a secret society. And Rothschild Zionism has been used via Israel to devastate, slaughter, torture an entire nation of human beings, while claiming to be against terrorism. This is the dictionary definition of genocide. the systematic and widespread extermination or attempted extermination of an entire national, racial, religious or ethnic group. Never can what is happening in Palestine and Gaza have been described so accurately. More and more people killed through war, killed through bombing attacks, killed through shootings, killed through lack of food and adequate medical care. Gaza, the most crowded piece of land on earth, is little more, ironically, than a concentration camp. And the world looks on. This is the face of Palestine. Well, tell me what you see. Combat boots. Yeah, another terrorist 5-year-old. And all the time, Palestinian homes are being demolished in occupied land and given over to these extremist settlers who believe that they have a right to it because it says so in some bloody Bible. And then we've got this security fence, which has taken great tracts of Palestinian land, right, all against international law and all the rest of it. And here is a children's playground being sacrificed as the wall continues, security fence continues its endless way. This green is Palestinian land in 1946. Then we see what has happened since. This is 2000. We're in 2010 now. It's much smaller than that. What was I saying? The systematic and widespread extermination or attempted extermination of an entire national, racial, religious or ethnic group. And I say to these Rothschild Zionists, don't you bloody dare talk about racism of others when you are behind this. Israel is an apartheid society, not just between Israelis and Palestinians, but through Israeli society. It's incredibly apartheid. The way they treat the black Jews from Ethiopia is absolutely grotesque. As is spokesman doing that, then talking about other people's racism. We've got to go for that. And people, Jewish people, have seen it. They can see what it is. There's some fantastic Jewish people in Israel who are resisting this. Young people who go to jail because they won't serve in the army because of what the army's doing to the Palestinians. Magnificent people. Who never get talked about in the mainstream media, hardly. And no matter what is said about Israel, this is Israel's response. Why? Because Israel is the fiefdom of the Rothschild dynasty, which also controls the American administration, the British administration, and so Rothschild's one arm is not going to criticize Rothschild's other arm. In the Matrix movie, there's something called the Zion mainframe. Well, Zionism, Rothschild Zionism, is in so many ways a mainframe of this network. And it pervades all the way through. And it's not about, these Jewish people here and these Jewish people there. It's Rothschild Zionists who are there, and they answer to the Rothschild dynasty. Therefore, they play out the agenda of the web in a coordinated way. Now, before I start this, a lot of names coming up. I'm going to go just through a bit of the American administration and a few other things, just to give you a feel for it, for people that haven't seen the extent of this. Before I start, one fact. Jewish people in America are less than 2% of the population. A significant number of them will not be Rothschild Zionists, and therefore the ratio of Rothschild Zionists is even smaller, significantly smaller than the 2%. Okay. Obama's immediate handler is a guy called Rahm Emanuel. He has served in the Israeli army. He's the White House Chief of Staff. He does whatever he says. His father, Emanuel's father, was a terrorist in the Irgun terrorist group that bombed Israel into existence in 1948. And this is the relationship between Rahm Emanuel, he's the kind of Peter Mandelson of America, and Obama. Hey, you want a Nobel Peace Prize? I can sort it, son. I can sort it, son. No problem. All pictures like that, by the way, are by a guy called David Dees, who's a political artist, brilliant, American, works out of Sweden. uses images so powerfully to tell a thousand words as they go. This guy is the second handler in the White House. His name's David Axelrod, Rothschild Zionist, and he was the man who orchestrated the entire election campaigns of Obama against